The dawn of the space race, in the heart of the Cold War, represented far more than a competition to place machines and eventually humans beyond Earth's atmosphere. It was a struggle for global influence, technological prestige, and ideological dominance. When the Soviet Union launched the tiny Sputnik 1 satellite in October 1957, its steady radio beeps reverberated across the planet as an unexpected symbol of Soviet prowess, shocking the United States and altering the psychological balance of the era. The satellite itself was modest and scientifically simple, yet it carried an immense geopolitical weight because it demonstrated that the USSR had mastered capabilities directly linked to intercontinental ballistic missiles. For Americans, who had long assumed their nation was technologically superior, Sputnik delivered a jolt of insecurity and forced a broader reckoning about the trajectory of the Cold War. Newspapers framed the event not merely as a scientific achievement, but as a strategic warning, suggesting that Soviet rockets capable of launching satellites could just as easily deliver nuclear warheads across continents, shrinking the margin of American safety and heightening a pervasive sense of vulnerability. The Eisenhower administration initially tried to maintain composure, assuring the public that the United States was not falling behind. Yet the political pressure and public anxiety proved overwhelming, catalyzing one of the most aggressive scientific mobilizations in American history. The Soviet triumph had deep roots in decades of research led by visionary engineers like Sergei Korolev, whose identity remained secret even within the USSR. Korolev oversaw a team working under harsh conditions, limited funding, and intense political scrutiny. Yet they managed to build rockets powerful enough to challenge global expectations. Soviet leadership immediately recognized the propaganda potential of their achievement, portraying the launch as irrefutable evidence of socialist scientific superiority. In truth, the Soviet program faced severe internal challenges, but these were concealed from the public in favor of celebrating a narrative of unstoppable progress. Meanwhile, the United States entered a phase of sober introspection, realizing that its educational system, scientific research structure, and military organization needed rapid overhaul. The explosion of the American Vanguard rocket on live television soon after the success of Sputnik deepened the embarrassment, reinforcing the appearance of Soviet technical dominance. This series of events accelerated the creation of NASA in 1958 and spurred major investments in mathematics, physics, and engineering education through the National Defense Education Act, reshaping U.S. policy for decades to come. As both superpowers invested resources, prestige, and political capital into the race, the contest became inseparable from the larger logic of Cold War competition, in which each technological milestone served as a symbolic measure of national vitality. The USSR pressed forward with Sputnik 2, sending the dog Laika into orbit, which further highlighted Soviet capabilities despite the ethical concerns surrounding the mission. The United States responded with renewed determination, framing the space race as a test of American ingenuity and the resilience of the free world model. Scientists, engineers, and politicians converged on the idea that technological leadership was, in effect, national survival, and no sphere of research embodied this urgency more powerfully than space. This mindset later fueled long-term programs dedicated to human spaceflight, satellite communications, military reconnaissance, and advanced rocketry. Although the early phase of the space race belonged to the Soviets with their successful launch of Yuri Gagarin as the first human in space in 1961, the dynamics began to shift as the United States consolidated its scientific infrastructure. The Mercury and Gemini programs laid the groundwork for the ambitious Apollo missions, which aimed directly at landing humans on the Moon, a goal that would decisively tilt the symbolic power of the competition. John F. Kennedy's bold 1961 speech declaring the intention to send an American to the Moon and return him safely to Earth before the decade's end reframed the space race as a moral and ideological narrative. a demonstration that a free society could accomplish feats as grand as or grander than those achieved under authoritarian rule. Engineering breakthroughs, improved funding, and a national culture increasingly oriented toward science and technology allowed the United States to catch up rapidly. Yet, despite the dramatic achievements on both sides, the space race also reflected deeper anxieties of the Cold War world. Each advancement carried undercurrents of fear, for the same rockets that could send astronauts into orbit could also carry nuclear payloads. Intelligence agencies monitored rival launches not only for scientific data, but for clues about missile capabilities. Furthermore, space quickly became a domain for demonstrating ideological narratives, the Soviets emphasizing the collective strength and unity of socialist progress, and the Americans promoting individual ingenuity, openness, and democratic dynamism. The competition also influenced education, media, and public imagination, embedding the dream of space exploration into the cultural fabric of both nations. Schoolchildren were encouraged to study science, newspapers featured diagrams of rockets and satellites, and both societies imagined future human colonies beyond Earth, fueled by the belief that their respective systems would lead humanity into the stars. By the time the United States achieved the first human moon landing in July 1969, the space race had transformed global perceptions of technology and politics. The Apollo 11 mission was celebrated not only as a triumph of American engineering, but as a symbolic statement that democracy and open inquiry could achieve the most extraordinary goals. The Soviet program, though still advanced, slowed under economic strain and internal political pressures, gradually losing the momentum that had defined its early successes. Yet the competition had already irrevocably shaped the world. It accelerated computer development, advanced telecommunications, established weather and GPS systems, and pushed scientific exploration into orbit and beyond. More importantly, it altered how nations viewed power, showing that ideological superiority could be contested not only with armies or economies, but with visions of the future. In retrospect, the early era of the space race stands as one of the most intense, creative, and consequential chapters of the Cold War. It redefined national priorities, reshaped scientific ambition, and produced achievements that continue to influence modern technology, culture, and geopolitics. Even long after the rivalry cooled, the echoes of those early beeps from Sputnik continue to resonate, reminding the world how a small satellite, born of political tension and technical daring, launched humanity into a new cosmic era.